Yep.
I try again.
Hello, I think we're live for another episode of Gaming Initiative Podcast, episode 26, with myself and the lovely, jubbly Red Dead Panda. Hello, Red Dead Panda.
Jubbly?
Yeah.
Your intros are getting worse. I'm going to have to start paying you to represent me properly. Okay. Thank you for the introduction. There, Elite. Apologise to everyone who joined us before. Technical difficulties. Hopefully everything is working perfectly now.
Yep.
But again, Ashtrey, you're going to have to do your introduction again. But we have a guest with us today, Ashtrey Gaming, an amazing guy on YouTube and on Twitter. And how have you been and what have you been playing?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having me. You can find me at Ashtrey Gaming everywhere. Keep it simple, easy to remember. That's on Twitter, Xbox, and PlayStation. I don't even know my Nintendo Switch number. I don't think anyone remembers that. What have I been playing lately? I've been playing a bit of everything. I like to play a myriad of different games, so I've been playing some of the Halo Flight. I've been jumping in and out of games with my kids as well. Actually, I've been playing some Slime Rancher. I'll jump into some Assassin's Creed and then over to some Forza. So I'm a bit of everything.
Glad to hear. Like me, I jump from everything. That's what I use Quick Resume for. It's like the best thing ever.
The best.
The best thing. And I jump between my Series X and my Series S. So having any game on the go is really easy. Even with the cloud saves and just migrating across from console to console. Easy.
It's 2021.
Get with it. Exactly, because everyone's hearing what's happening with Death Stranding and getting their getting their game to run on the PS5. Headaches, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Anyway, what have I been up to? I've been playing Flynn Crimson Sun, I think that's what it's called. So that's on Game Pass. Really, really fun. I can't get past this one boss though, so I'm gonna have to watch a walkthrough to see how to. I've died so many times.
What sort of game is it? Is it a puzzle game or?
It's more like it's sort of Metroidvania in a way, but kind of reminds me a bit of the original side-scrolling like Zelda-ish type games as well.
Okay.
I don't know how to describe it exactly, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But I've just been playing lots and lots of indie games on Game Pass recently and just jumping between the two. Like last week, was it last week or the week before? The Artful Escape. Loved that game. That was wicked cool. Yeah, but I haven't really been doing much other than work, and that's about it. That's really me. I'm boring. I'm really boring. Elite, what have you been up to?
I've been playing. I've rebooted up Conan Exiles, so I'm starting to do Conan Exiles and do some more gameplay and tips videos because I asked to put about 5,000 or 6,000 hours into that game. So I'm gonna start doing tips videos and stuff like that, and helping out people on how to solo the game and sort of beat solo and alphas and stuff like that. So I'm going to get back into that again. I'm still playing Naruto Shippuden. And I did try that Origami. Is it Origami 2?
What did you think of that?
Yeah, I really wanted it to be really good. I really wanted it to be more like that. What's that game? The fighting one it was like it. You said it last week.
Absolver.
Yeah, Absolver. Yeah, I wanted it to be more like that, but it wasn't. It just seemed really basic, really dated, which is a bit of a shame. Yeah. Did you think that? It just seemed really just. Go on, sorry.
Yeah. I wanted to give it a go as well, and I talked the Blue One to join me in co-op, and he was very reluctant because he's like the first game wasn't very good, and we probably played it for about half an hour, and we went,
same as me.
It's still very 360, like mechanics and stuff like that,
and the mechanics, just the
graphics.
Movement.
Graphics were very disappointing, to be honest with you.
It was.
I expected way more, but that's again, that's the beauty of Game Pass.
Yeah.
Try these things out.
Yeah, can you imagine you pay 70 for that?
That wouldn't have been $70.
No, Sony.
Yeah. All right. We're getting into our topics, and thank you everyone in the chat for joining us again.
Another Zinc. Thank you on board. If you could join us again as every week. Please share this out and drop some likes. We did have quite a few other people in, but we lost our stream. Just went all wrong the first stream we did, so it's our second stream. So we're going.
Because the leaks are fraud.
Yes, that'd be the reason why. So we're going to go into our first topic, which is no announced acquisitions by Xbox. Surprised or not surprised? So, what's this Red Dead Panda? What was this aimed at? I'm not too sure.
We remember last week when everyone was hyping up the acquisitions. We talked about it on our show last week.
Yes.
And then there was nothing.
Oh yes, I thought I might miss something. I thought because there's Tokyo show coming up. Well, there was a lot of hype about them showing something there. When is that? Yeah, next week. Yeah, so let's go to Ashtrey. Actually, this is Ashtrey's opinion on this. What do you think, Ashtrey? What about the whole hype around them going to announce something and then nothing was announced? What do you think?
My understanding is that there was a legitimate leak out there. It was going to actually happen, but at the same time, there were people just being trolls on Twitter. And they were doing it on purpose, just to take the piss, as it were. So, I never really read into this stuff too much myself. You see a lot of that sort of thing, excuse me, on the PlayStation side. And it's rare to see that much, silliness on the Xbox side. But people are hanging out for some news. They really want another acquisition. Hey, look, it's been great this generation so far for Xbox that people want the momentum to keep going, and it's been a little dry and a bit quiet from Xbox at this point in time for the last few months. So people are sort of dying for some more news, and I think we've been spoiled. So everyone just needs to calm down, and especially on these acquisitions. Look, we know that there's going to be more. Satya said it himself months ago, that they're not done with acquisitions. There will be further acquisitions in the future. Just wait. They'll come.
Yeah, I think
we've got plenty of games to play right now.
A year since the first acquisition, wasn't it? So I think people were expecting Xbox to just drop a major acquisition every year now, which is ridiculous, really. I think there is an acquisition there. I don't think they would announce it randomly on Twitter, though. If anything, I think possibly if there is something, it's going to be at the Game of the Year Awards, I reckon. Wouldn't be surprised if there is something. But, yeah.
Yes, that's going to be the best platform for it.
Yeah.
With the most amount of people watching it, and I believe that if they do drop anything, it'll definitely be there.
Yeah, just annoy Jeff.
Still can't believe how they dropped Hellblade 2 announcement in 2019.
And that's where
he claims he knew.
Yeah, he didn't. His face.
But he claims he knew. He put it in a tweet saying, of course I knew. I organised, the whole show and everything. But yeah, I reckon you're right. His face says otherwise.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, because I think they said they was going to show something else, didn't they? And then they also done the reveal of the Xbox Series X. Just pulled the rug away from under Sony, didn't they? No one expected that either.
I loved the camera where it pans and you can see Mark Cerny's face. That was comedy gold.
Yeah. I need to see that.
I think I was pretty spot on. I feel like we didn't really need an acquisition announcement at this point. I mean, Xbox is going to announce it when they announce it. It would be nice to have one, but we're still getting over the Bethesda ZeniMax acquisition right now. We're still settling into that. There's still games to be announced there. So I think holding off and just letting the chips land where they may, because it takes time with these acquisitions to kind of iron out all the little details before they can go ahead and make an announcement about that. So people thinking that it's just going to be firing on all cylinders, there was a few years between the first set of announcements of acquisitions on Xbox, back in 2017, to the announcement last year, and then the confirmation that it did happen this year. So it does take time, and people have been saying it's been acquisition season since the beginning of the year. Yes, Satya Nadella did say they were looking at acquiring more studios, but they also have to go out and look at what the studios have to offer as a whole and see if that's the best fit for what they want to do, and does that fit in with what they're doing in their Game Pass side of things. So be patient. There will be more acquisitions coming down the line. I wasn't surprised that there wasn't an announcement. So, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Take or leave it.
So, are we done with that topic there? Should we move on?
I don't know. What did you say, Elite? You basically just agreed with everything.
Yeah.
Because he's a fraud. Like, he has no opinion.
Yeah, no, I said that. Yeah, I said they're going to probably say something at the Game Year Awards, if anything. Other than that, I think there is an acquisition. They're just not going to announce it. Yep. And they're not going to announce it just because people on Twitter say announce it.
Like I say time and time again, all I want is a Sobo. That's the announcement I really want, a Sobo. Yeah.
Oh, I was listening to Boom's podcast the other day, and there was a guy on that said a really good studio that people now were sort of talking about studios purchasing.
Pegasus Nation?
Yeah, Pegasus Nation purchasing. No, what's the one he said? But they own something like 200 studios. What was the one he said? And sort of they go under the radar, but basically in the 90s there was a lot of studios going under, and they just bought them all. They bought all like 200 studios basically, and you'd be surprised. They even own THQ Nordic and stuff like that. They own them. They own loads and loads of studios, like 200 studios, which if they bought them would just you just have an unlimited supply of games for Game Pass.
It's like another company has a monopoly, so
yeah, that's the whole comedy about the that's what he was saying about Xbox. They moan about Xbox having a monopoly of 23 studios, but this publisher owns 200 studios, so there's no such monopoly. It's all nonsense. Maybe if they bought this company, then you could complain about monopoly, because then they'd have 223 studios rather than just 23. But
yeah,
but there's no such law about the monopoly of gaming. It's ridiculous. So
parent organisation says Embracer Group. Does that ring a bell?
Embracer Group. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
There you go.
Look them up.
Thank Google.
Yeah. Oh right. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Embracer Group. Yeah. Is it 200 studios?
I'd have to do a little bit more research on it, to be honest with you. Okay, but they do seem to own quite a bit.
The exact opposite of Pegasus Nation's tagline, which is PlayStation first. So I don't think. just saying. All right. I mean, I think that topic's done to death. I mean, people came out and was like complaining that there was no news. Like, you hyped yourselves up. Just take what you get from Xbox when we get it, because we have had so much news from Xbox, and people saying that Xbox needed to combat PlayStation Showcase. No, they didn't. PlayStation didn't combat E3's Xbox Showcase, so why does Xbox have to combat PlayStation Showcases? They're just going to do what they do, and they've been doing great this current generation. They've had more games out than PlayStation this generation, so I think they're doing fine. So just calm down.
Your sister in the chat. Get your sister in the chat. Red.
Hi Coral. Shout out to my twin. All right.
Should we move on to the next topic?
Next. What is the next topic?
It's Kena or Kena. Depending on how you say it. I say Kena.
Kena, yeah, I think Kena. Let's go Kena.
I think
Kena Bridge of Spirits released this week. Virtually no fanfare or marketing from the PS. Yes, there wasn't. Yes, there was none. And what was also odd about Metacritic, I don't think the reviews went live until the game released, did it? And the user reviews didn't go live until about 2 or 3 days after the game released.
That's because no one was buying the game, right?
Yeah, no. Well, none of them talked about it. None of them were talking about it until the game released, and then all of them were talking about it. Until its review score come in, I think it was 81, 82. Until that score came in, then they all said they all owned it and all played it, and it's brilliant. Before that point, none of them were talking about it whatsoever. They was waiting for that score to come in. If it had come in at 60 or lower, they wouldn't have talked about it. Because it come in at 81, they all suddenly owned the game and they all played it, and it's better than anything on Xbox. You notice that? It's been amazing.
Since you're our guest, Ashtrey, we're more than happy to let you go first, so you can get your thoughts out. What are your thoughts
for sure. Well,
on this game?
Look, from what I've seen of it, it's a game that I'd definitely get into, but I'm definitely more than happy to wait for it until it comes out on Xbox. That's where I'd prefer to play it. It's my preferred system, my preferred controller, so there's no reason to buy it or play it any other reason at any other time. But the game itself, I think you mentioned that there was no advertising or very little, and there was nothing sort of pushed from Sony's side, and Sony don't really push indie games, and they don't care. That's not their bread and butter. They only like to push their huge AAA games, and that's it. But they should have, and I think knowing that the team behind this game came from making movies, animated films, shows that in the quality of the visuals. Hands down, you can see that. Gameplay, I've heard mixed reviews on it. It's quite good. The mechanics seem to be fluid, but they're not breaking any new ground. And I don't think for an indie studio, a small team, to be breaking ground is probably not going to happen anyway. They're probably just trying to get this game out there, get people into it, get people to like it, and then once they get more funding, I think that's when you start to see, because it always comes down to funding at the end of the day. And once you have that funding and that time, then you can then reinvent the wheel and come up with these crazy mechanics and things like that. So I think based on its the type of game it is and the visuals alone, an 82 on OpenCritic is probably exactly where it needs to be. I think and I'm looking forward to playing it when it comes to Xbox.
If that being an animation studio, I think that would be a good studio. If Xbox were to purchase any more studios, would be a good buy for Xbox. Get an animation studio in their belt.
Look at what they've done with they don't own Moon Studios, but they've helped them, and look at how popular that is. So it might not necessarily need to purchase them, but just be there and support them.
Support them, Have various other developers, developing teams. Yeah, it would be interesting.
Because they don't need to buy every bloody business out there. It's just a case of partnering up, teaming with them, and just helping them through with whatever it might be, with resources, money, whatever it might be.
Well, in 6 months' time, I wonder if it will go straight to Game Pass. That'd be an interesting thing. But I believe it is 6 months. It's coming to Xbox Series X. So don't have to.
Is it 6? Is it? I thought it was a year.
No, I've read 6 somewhere.
Okay. Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. So
I'm happy to wait. I'm happy to wait for it to come to Xbox.
Yeah. We've got loads coming out.
It's my preferred platform. I mean, I'm used to the control system there. Like, prefer the asymmetric joysticks and all of that. I think it's interesting. I feel like what you said there, Ashtrey, saying like they should have actually sort of marketed it better. PlayStation should have, and I agree 100% because they don't have a lot of games coming up for the rest of the year. So they marketed the hell out of Deathloop because that was like a AAA studio, not an indie, but put some fanfare in behind a game that you're releasing on your system, because there isn't a lot of games coming out for the rest of the year that are exclusively not being released on Xbox. So I feel like they didn't do it.
Exactly. I mean, sorry to cut you off, but PlayStation should be supporting the devs. It's all well and good for people to say support the devs, buy their game. Well, Sony throws money on YouTube ads and all this other stuff. Well, support the indie developers, support the devs. Sony.
Play has no limit until indie developers are involved, right?
The amount of advertising they did for Deathloop was incredible.
Deathloop.
Yeah. They went to town on that, and I wonder if that was sort of pre-planned, thinking they was going to own it.
Of course,
yeah. So
probably part of their contract and marketing deal. Yeah, it would have been part of that contract and marketing deal, I reckon. But I mean, like Sean Layden said it best. Like their focus was the big titles, but like he said it best before he left. But they were focusing on those bigger experiences. And so that tends to pull focus away from indie developers. And like I've said in previous podcasts, indie developers tend to push the boundaries on types of games and mechanics that they come up with. So for them to have this as their first game release, outstanding visuals wise, and you can see why it's outstanding visuals wise because of their previous history making oh my god, why can't I think of the words today? But I'll get there one day. So it just explains why the game looks so good. And yes, they haven't done anything outside the bounds or anything sort of groundbreaking in relation to the game mechanics for this, because it is their first game. So rather get a hit in the sense of make it solid, get people on board, get the money flowing, and then they can try different things for their next game.
Yeah.
But I'm just the fanfare behind it. Like, if you're such a big PlayStation fan and you're all about holding exclusives over Xbox gamers' heads, why was this a game that you guys weren't pushing and marketing yourselves? Because you like to consistently tell us about supporting the devs. But there were PlayStation gamers who didn't even know it was coming out this week.
Yeah.
That's how little...
Let's be honest, they don't really know a lot anyway.
Yeah. Aside from, like, their director's cuts and all of that, they don't really know a lot about the games coming out. Like, I love the social media that Xbox is running with Game Pass, like consistently telling us about games releasing all the time. I honestly always know that there are new games coming, and I don't have to worry about it. And I know well in advance because they tell us what's releasing next month, and then they remind us the week it's releasing, then the day it's releasing, and then they're out. You get consistent reminders, but I'm not seeing that. Because I follow PlayStation, I don't see that on the same side when it comes to PlayStation. They should be pushing games that are exclusively off another console, like not held off another console, to get their fan base to support that developer and get them using their PlayStation 5s. Because there are people out there who have bought a Series S while there are no games out for their PS5. So they're playing Game Pass, and their PS5 is just collecting dust. Give people an excuse to play it, because you have so many consoles out there, over 10 million consoles out there. Let those gamers have something to play, guys. Just saying.
I'm looking forward to when Rift Apart comes to the PS4 soon.
Oh... And then we'll be able to rip apart that PlayStation fan base.
Yeah.
I so reckon it will happen.
It will, and they'll come up with some reason why it's capable. Or because there was talk of the Godfall going to PS4, wasn't there? Because that game absolutely flopped, didn't it? There was talk about that going to PS4. Yeah, it's just, that'd be the day that breaks them, doesn't it? Shall we go on to the next topic?
I agree about this. Someone just put in the chat, ponies know more about what Xbox is doing than what's happening with PlayStation.
Yeah.
100% true, guys. We live rent-free on that side.
Yeah.
Facts.
If they had games to play, they wouldn't worry about us. So, yes, next topic. Next topic is Minecraft. It's the most successful video game franchise ever, generating over 1.1 billion in 2020 alone. Now, this is fantastic.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Personally, I think the game's trash, but you can't ignore making 1.1 billion. That's probably made more money than probably the majority of PlayStation games alone. So
yeah.
And so Microsoft bought them back in 2015, is it?
2014 is when they acquired them.
For 2 billion.
2.5 billion.
So they probably would have made that money back by now. If they've made 1.1 billion just 1 year, and they've owned them for 7 years, they've probably made that money back now. So
generated probably revenue, right? So that's not profit. I wouldn't think.
No.
So you generally halve that, but still, I mean, it's still good. It's still very good money. And look, the reason why, and hey, it doesn't have to have good graphics. It doesn't have to be a story-driven game. What it has to be is be fun. and it gives access to everyone around the world, regardless of platform, regardless of your age. Essentially, it's an everyone game. So anyone can play it. There's YouTube videos up the wazoo on YouTube. My kids love to play it all the time. And I go, do you know what you're doing? And they're like, oh, we're just building a house and we're just doing this. And it's like, okay, sure. As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters. So it's a game that you can do anything you want as long as you use your imagination. And that sort of, and the ease of use and everything bodes well with people. You can be anywhere, and as long as you've got an internet connection, you can use it on your phone, your laptop, your iPads.
Crossplay, right?
Anything. It's everything. So if I'm on the Xbox, I can play with my son on his iPad, and then he can play with his buddy on his iPad, and vice versa. So it's just easy. You can just pick it up and play it. And I think at the end of the day, that and let's not forget microtransactions.
Yeah,
that plays a big part in it. Let's be real. It's a free game, but the buying, little story modes and outfits and things like that, that's where it really comes from. That's where the money gets generated from. I say free to play. Well, it's not really free to play, but it is if you got Game Pass. So excuse me for misspeaking, because it still costs money. But I always just think, hey, if it's on Xbox, it's free. So it's just my mentality.
The original game launched back in 2011, and it's since then they've sold over more than 200 million copies across all of those platforms. That's insane. Like the next closest would be, I would say, would be GTA 5, which is about
how many copies did
I looked this up. 50 million copies. 50 million copies behind. Yeah. So that's insane. Well done, Mojang, for creating this game. And it's taken off so much. And for people who kind of poked fun at Xbox or Microsoft for acquiring Mojang back in 2014, there was a reason they acquired it. And the price that they got, when you think about how well that game's done over the years, I think they got it for a steal.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because that game is a juggernaut. It's its own force, and people who keep propelling it forward are the people who play it every single day. You're 100% correct there, Ashtrey Gaming, when you were saying, like, just everyone goes in, plays it, builds houses, does anything that it's fun to play. There's so many different ways you can play the game, and the amount of people who are engaged in coming up with new ways to create little mini games inside the game itself. So, I mean,
exactly.
Minecraft as a
well.
World's best babysitter. Love it. I mean, the IP itself is so popular that they created Minecraft Dungeons, and that has 11.5 million players. There is rumors that they are working on at least 2 new games based on that Minecraft franchise. So I think great job, and it should be celebrated more often that a game like this has done what it's done, and it doesn't fit in the constraints of what people consider a AAA banger, because a game doesn't have to be that to be successful. Like you said, it just has to be fun. People have to have a reason to keep going back, and they do, and they create those own reasons themselves. So anyone who's not a big Minecraft fan, that's fine. To each their own. Like, gaming is about choice, and if it's fun for you, it's fun for you. If it's not fun for you, find another game to play. Simple as that.
Well, you just mentioned before that Minecraft Dungeons had 11 million players. Yep. That's that's more players than most AAA bangers. Quote unquote. So it proves that the IP is extremely popular, well known, everyone likes it, but at the same time it tells me that Game Pass is a winner right there as well. 11 million players.
Yeah, and I think
it's fantastic.
I think this is why Microsoft's actually quite clever in their purchases and acquisitions and stuff. And I think that this is probably, they've looked, just like they did with Mojang, they probably really looked into the purchase of ZeniMax and looked at the future sort of revenue from them, just like Mojang. That's why I think ZeniMax is going to be much bigger than what people think. And I reckon they're going to make a lot of money from ZeniMax and all the studios and stuff as well. I reckon we'll probably hear massive success stories the same way.
There's a reason why they basically, once ZeniMax was announced, the Stadia basically shut down, man. There's a reason why that happened, like the next day or something, because they just realized that once you get that, the possibilities, it's endless. It's absolutely endless, and people in the business understand that. Us maybe not quite as much, or not into that detail, but it's huge, absolutely massive.
Yeah. I mean, the IP has gone far beyond just gaming itself. I mean, the amount of merchandise and swag available for Minecraft, it's huge. So it was one of the smartest things that they could have done. They saw the writing on the wall. They saw what was going to happen, obviously projections-wise, and they've done a great job with making it successful. Would have been nice to see the super duper 4K pack. Maybe one day, but I know that there was difficulties with them trying to get that up and running like consistently across all the platforms. So yeah, we'll see how that happens. See if it happens in the future. Who knows? I always thought the HoloLens aspect of it was interesting, but I think one day HoloLens is gonna.
Have you guys seen how expensive they are?
Yeah, they are. So I think the technology needs to get cheaper in pricing and become more portable. Because I was saying, like, HoloLens, imagine putting one of those on, and then it being in this empty field, and you could have like a laser tag match because you can see all the walls that it creates.
Have you seen
that would be really cool.
Using HoloLens?
No, I haven't.
The guy done show on YouTube. I think you have to look up HoloLens Street Fighter, and the guy plays Street Fighter using the HoloLens, and the Street Fighter characters are on his kitchen table fighting. So just imagine you when you're playing the game, but it's like, but they're like in sort of 3D. So it's almost as if they're like the two of them standing on the kitchen table fighting. It looks incredible.
Augmented reality.
Yeah, it looks incredible. Right.
Yeah, I'm. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that Elite? To Minecraft?
No, I'm good. No, I think we're done.
You're gonna go play that right after this, aren't you?
No. Right. No.
He's like, I'm leaving the pod. I'm leaving now.
I really just don't get the game. But so that topic aside, who actually plays the game here? Do you guys play it?
I've played it.
Have you?
I haven't. I've played Minecraft Dungeons.
Oh yeah, we played that. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
What did you think of
enjoyed
Minecraft,
that.
Though?
Oh look, it's
a game.
It's not bad. Look, yeah, I had to play it to learn how it worked and everything, so that at the time I could teach my son how to play. The funny thing is that was a waste of time because he just wants to get in and just do whatever, not actually play the game. The way like the way you're sort of supposed to. But he just goes in creative mode all the time, and he just spawns a ton of different things and builds buildings and goes into the Ender dimension, and he just goes in creative mode most of the time. And look, if that's what he wants to do, then that's fine. Do that. That's what it's all about. Well, it's freedom of speech kind of thing, if you know what I mean. Like, your freedom to create. So, why not? And I think that's the biggest draw to it, is the fact that you can just sort of make it your own world in your own way. Yeah.
That's why I think it's so popular.
Have you guys seen the interactive cartoons at all?
No.
Yeah. So if you got Netflix, I think it is you Minecraft cartoons, and they actually each point, like maybe every few minutes, there's a point in the story where you get to choose what happens next. It's sort of one of those choose your own adventure type things, and so you can go through the episode and you choose how it sort of plays out, which is really cool too. So.
Sounds great. Also sounds really
like that.
The PlayStation AAA games.
Yeah.
But it's a good idea because kids get interactive with it. You just use your TV remote to select, what the option is, and having things like that. It's everywhere. So that's why it's so popular.
All right, moving along, Elite. So the next topic, if you guys have been on Twitter recently, basically.
Now, what's Twitter?
Yeah, what is this? I've never heard of it. Yeah.
It's toxic.
is basically people coming up with this idea that any game that seems to be locked to Sony's platform, whether it is a indie studio or third party studio, is now considered Sony funding, and they're helping with the game production. Like, people are giving examples of Kena Bridge of Spirits, and people are even like citing Deathloop, for example, saying like Sony had funded these two games. There's no evidence of that. Yes, they helped publishing it. Yes, there's a exclusive contract, but Deathloop would have been funded by themselves, and then when Xbox acquired, there would have been some additional funding from Xbox.
Yeah.
But people are coming up with this idea, just because PlayStation is allowing the game to release on their console as an exclusive, it's being funded by them.
Timed exclusive.
Yeah.
Timed. So I think the thing is that it comes down to education. And a lot of these people don't actually look into these things properly. They don't educate themselves on the situation and how it really works. Just because you advertise something doesn't mean that you own it per se. And that happens a lot. Sony always buys the rights to a game for a limited time. Every generation, it always happens, but that doesn't mean they own it.
No, just saves them making that.
All it is advertising rights and exclusivity for a limited time. That's all it is. That it doesn't mean anything else. If, however, it said Sony Studios or PlayStation Studios, that's when you know it's being funded by them.
Yeah.
But that isn't the case in a lot of these games, and people just don't care to educate themselves. Most of what is said on Twitter is just wrong. It's just downright wrong. And that's how the world works. People say something, other people run with it, and as if it's fact, and that's just not the case at all. So that's all right. These people exist, and they always will.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a part of our community which aren't well versed on how stuff actually works. And I think it needs to be called out. And I feel like it should be called out from the top. I mean, Xbox calls out stuff that they see when it's misinformation, and PlayStation tends to stay silent and allow things to run rampant and go crazy, because there's part of their fan base which is really toxic, and anything that PlayStation releases must be funded by PlayStation, must be an exclusive. That's not how it works. I mean, there are multiplats who just choose to release a game on that platform. Doesn't mean they're being funded by PlayStation at all. It's just meaning that there are games that you're going to be able to play on your platform, and PlayStation is allowing you to do so.
Yeah, look, if any of the execs or anyone at Sony or PlayStation see any of this stuff, which they probably don't, they just treat it as free advertising. Yeah. That's their mentality behind it, guaranteed. Whether it's true or false, unless it was something extremely negative, they're not going to get involved, because they love it. They're sitting there going, free advertising. Yeah. And that's how they see it. They spend so much in advertising, they may as well get some free stuff too.
Yeah, Horizon Forbidden West was like the one of the most recent and only times I've really seen PlayStation come out and talk about something, in stark contrast to what their fan base is saying. Yeah, that was surprising that they did that.
That's exactly perfect point right there, because they had to, because they didn't want it to negatively affect them.
Yeah,
that's exactly why they did it.
I've had this sort of debate as well so many times on Twitter with them, because as you said, they're very uneducated. I don't know if they're uneducated or they just don't want to learn. They don't want to know the truth, because they want to live in that bubble, don't they? They say they purposely make themselves ignorant. But I tried to explain to them the difference between exclusivity is first-party games is developed and published by Sony, for example. Second party is published, and then third party exclusivity is basically Sony's just paid for a timed exclusivity, That means they've just given a lump sum to the publisher and gone, can we have your game for a limited amount of time, 6 months, a year, whatever. They've said yes, and that's it, just ends there. There's no, so you don't pay towards any development or anything. That's just, they just pay the publisher, and they're, yep. And then, so examples of that would be Deathloop, that's timed exclusivity. They would have thrown money at the publisher before Sony Xbox bought them, so that to honour that contract. Kenna's another one. KOTOR's another one, because it's actually timed exclusive. It's not permanently on PlayStation. In fact, KOTOR's only Sony are only publishing the PS5 version, not the PC or the Xbox version. So that's how you know it's going to be coming to Xbox. Just the same,
really,
exactly the same deal as they had for MLB. MLB the show on the Xbox was not published by Sony. It was published by another team, another publisher. So exactly the same. So there.
I thought this was funny, honestly, that this is a talking point, this is a narrative. I mean, the amount of narratives that contradict themselves and come out of Twitter that are just like completely ignorant of facts and anything, just makes me giggle and laugh. And I saw this and I was just like, what can you do? Because it's not a surprise that this is happening. We've seen it time and time again in that particular fan base. I mean, there's pockets of that fan base everywhere in every community, but the ones who speak the loudest are the ones you should be taking heed to and listening to. And so the loudest part of their fan base is the misinformed part of the fan base, the loudest part of Xbox fan base, and the people that Xbox gamers tend to follow who are hardcore know their stuff, don't want to misinform anyone. So we're kind of trying to tell it out how it is and re-educate and make sure that you are not being misinformed. You're here for a reason. I'm on Xbox for a reason. They have the games I like. They have everything else that I like. But I understand how it works. And there's a really big part of that community on that side that don't. And it's so obvious that they don't, with the amount of rubbish that they spew on Twitter and try and get receipts on us and then get proven wrong time and time again. And then they have to change the goalposts. So I think they're just trying to deflect. I mean, Deathloop's barely, like, has anyone heard of anything to do with Deathloop after its first week of release?
Yeah, no, other than it actually was number one, wasn't it? In the sound.
Yeah, that's about it. There hasn't really been anything there. I mean, it's kind of like a lot of their games have really died down really fast around the fanfare. They go straight back from playing a game one day, maybe post it one day, and then go straight back to bagging on Xbox the next day. Yeah. Like, if you want to promote positivity, promote supporting the developers, promote the games you're playing yourselves. Get other gamers to, like, encourage other gamers to play those games too. Rather than encourage your fan base to attack another fan base.
Yeah.
And that's all that Twitter is now, is just one fan base.
Do you want to know something funny?
To attack. What?
Want to know something funny? The biggest loudmouths on Twitter actually play Xbox a lot.
Yeah.
They really do. They do. You just have to find their profiles. They play Xbox probably more than they play PlayStation.
That's because they've got Game Pass and they don't want to admit that they've got Game Pass.
Yeah. I called one of the biggest ponies out a couple of weeks back, and he just went, "Yep, I play Xbox a lot."
Yeah,
that's it. He'll still keep ragging on Xbox, even though he seems to play on it more than he does his PlayStation. So
it's like
that's funny to me.
That's the delusion. It's like they feel they have to defend Sony for some reason. I don't know what it is. It's strange.
I know what it is. It's attention. It's to get attention. And the biggest, loudest, as we always say, most toxic community is the PlayStation. Yeah. So that's why they do it. Get that attention.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that was interesting.
I think that's interesting too, because they like to come back and they go, what's your PSN ID and such, because they want to try and prove you wrong, or prove that you're not a true gamer because you don't really play these PlayStation games, so how can you have an opinion? Obviously, I don't have a PlayStation, so yeah, I can still have an opinion. You don't have to listen to it. I'm not going to be overly critical. I'm just going to tell it how I see it and what I understand. But if you ask them to do the same thing, they go very quiet. for a reason, because then they'll get shown out as the frauds that they are, and they are frauds.
Gamer score's enough one they like to see. What's your gamer score? To prove you're a gamer, what's your gamer score? Like gamer score reflects and you being a gamer. It's ridiculous.
Well, if it did, you'd be a fraud because I've got a higher gamer score than you.
I've got a terrible gamer score, and I'll admit that because I've turned on my.
You play a lot of online games.
Yeah, which you don't get achievements for. If I got achievements for playing like an online game for 4,000 hours, then I'll be top of it. But you don't. I don't get achievement for every time I kill someone in the game. Unfortunately,
it's excuses, Elite.
Yeah.
You're just not a real gamer.
In fact, yeah, because it is really the single player games that only really offer the most achievements. The multiplayer games don't really offer much, even though you sort of throw more time in them.
Yeah. I found that when I played heavily with Destiny, I'd be like, I got all those beginning achievements.
You're on it every day, throwing so much time into it, but you've still got the same amount of achievements as someone else has could have thrown just 10 hours into it. Yeah. Right. All right. Topic done to death. Go on, and you can read off the last topic then. Go on, I know you want
to. This just came out, right? And we were talking about this before the show, before we had technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So they came out, the initiative, and confirmed that they are partnering with Crystal Dynamics on their new game, Perfect Dark, the reboot. So there's a lot of people out there saying that this means that the game is not doing as well as it should be, that there's probably development problems going on, that they're having to ask another studio to come in and help with development. However, that is not the case. So, Ashtrey, do you want to jump in and lead with
I have
that?
no opinion on this. No.
I've got lots to say on this, so I don't want to...
Yeah, she's ready to go. Red boils and goes mad.
Well, I'll keep it short then. But
no, just keep talking.
I think it's a good thing. It really is a good thing. Everyone needs help. You don't just. I put this out on Twitter. My man Fonz, shout out to Fonz. He wasn't happy yesterday, and he put out a tweet saying that it wasn't good enough, and. I understood what he was saying, but at the same time, he said, what was it? Something like, you don't buy a 5-star restaurant, sell Burger King or something like that, food, right? Something like that. Yeah. And I was like, well, it's actually more like you have a 5-star hotel, but you still need waiting staff to serve the customers, right? Yeah. You need mechanics within that to help. So that's how I sort of see Crystal Dynamics. They're a part of that mechanic to come in and serve the tables, as it were, and get that food out there. So there's nothing wrong for getting assistance on something. And we all know that it happens in every industry, and it happens all the time in gaming. And obviously, in my opinion, they probably planned this from the start anyway. And even if they didn't, because things have slowed down in many aspects, for many reasons, they've probably got a timeline. They're probably told that they need to hit that timeline. And they're doing everything that they can do to hit that timeline. Because we all know that if games keep going and going and going in development, the more they cost.
Yep.
It's probably going to be a big cost as it is. So they're going to try and limit that as much as they can. They've also got a really good relationship with Crystal Dynamics.
They do.
And why not use people to help that that you're aware of? You know their talent, you know their abilities, you know them. They probably know them on a personal level. It just makes sense. I think it's a great thing, and it happens all the time. Simple as that.
Well, Crystal Dynamics made Tomb Raider, so I think the sort of the games already sound like they sort of go hand in hand, don't they? Really.
Sure.
But what I've heard about this though is probably why they're helping out. I don't know if you've heard. I've heard of the grapevine that the game's gonna have very much a John Wick element into it. It's going to play very much like John Wick, apparently.
I did see that.
So I can imagine
it's going to be awesome.
The fight scene, is going to be really crazy. And that's probably, if there is anything that's going to be quadruple A, I think that might be taken to the level. I've got a feeling this game is going to be really, it's going to blow people's minds graphically, but just mechanically. I think if you're going to run through as this sort of, I don't know, heroin lady that's going to go around just obliterating people in John Wick style fashion, it's going to blow minds, I think. I think it's going to be incredible. But yeah, so you got anything more to say, Ashtrey?
Look, no, I want to hear from Panda. I want to go. I want to rant. I want to rant. Let's go.
Can I go first before she just? Because otherwise, this is going to go on for another 2 hours.
Yeah, basically, go Elite.
Well, actually, I'll see Fonz's Twitter. He said sorry, didn't he? To see his recent Twitter. He said sorry to everyone.
He did.
And Rand apparently put him in his place as well about what he said. So that was quite interesting. But the first thing, a lot of these big studios do use support. The fact that they're using Crystal Dynamics is like, it's not like just getting your general waiters in. That's like getting 5-star waiters in to help you out. Not like just some agency staff to help out. Secondly, like Initiative only formed 2 years ago. So they're sort of a newly developed team themselves, and this is their first ever game together as a team. So, you know, people comparing them to Naughty Dog and stuff like that, but Naughty Dog have been around for 20 odd years and been developing games that long. You know, they're already a team of established franchises. These are not, so these want to come out kicking. These have just gone straight to AAA. They've skipped everything, gone straight to AAA, which even studios like Santa Monica and Naughty Dog did do. Their first games were not AAA, so these have just gone straight in for it. But no doubt you're going to touch on this too, Red Dead fan. Actually, go on. You just fire. You just fire. Because otherwise, I think I'm going to say it, and you're going to want to say it.
You're fine. I'm happy for you to say whatever you want to say, but I think it's interesting to look at this and the fact that this is now a narrative. Like, do your research, guys. If you have looked into anything around this, games have and developers have a history of working together. How do you think we get better technologies and better mechanics in games? Because they share that information out. I mean, part of some of the things Xbox podcasts were talking about was it was great adding Bethesda and ZeniMax into the studios along with the other studios they recently added a couple of years ago, because it gives all of these developers an opportunity to come together and go, hey, I need help with this mechanic, or how did you do this? And you guys can have those talks and improve as a whole. And there's like Daryl Gallagher, for example, was the head of Crystal Dynamics or Tomb Raider. Like, he was the directorial head for that. So he rebooted that franchise and made that franchise the way it was today. So that's part of the reason why he's the head of the initiative, because he has a history of doing that. And that's why they're rebooting Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
And they're going to do an amazing job. Like, the scope of the game itself and what they've talked about, what they wanted to do with it, like you mentioned, the John Wick style gameplay. They talked about having the idea of like GoPro type camera style with that. That takes a lot of effort and skill, and it takes a while to develop a brand new studio from the ground up. Yes, it's full of a lot of heavyweights from the industry, from other developers and other studios. However, they're still quite small. I mean, you're comparing apples to oranges. Like, looking at Naughty Dog, they're a studio of over, I can't even think of how many developers work at that studio, but it's a lot larger than what is at the initiative. So comparatively speaking, yes, they're going to need support. I mean, if you're going to throw stones, do your research. God of War Ragnarok is getting help from Valkyrie Entertainment as a studio. They develop they help develop AAA titles with other developers all the time. They helped with like Valorant, Halo Infinite, Forza Motorsport 7, League of Legends, Ark Extinction, Bloodlines 2, both new God of War, so God of War 1 and then God of War Ragnarok is being supported by another developer, another studio. So for you guys to kind of throw stones and say that this must be development hell, they're still early in development. Yes, we had that CGI trailer that gave us a scope and told us sort of what they're aiming for for the art style and the theme and the tone of the game, but they're still in that part of development where they're still getting those mechanics right, and they need that additional support. So it's more modular. Like, they'll have that support when they need it, and then they'll take that support away when they don't need it. I mean, we're still dealing with COVID and the pandemic. So rather than just hiring a whole heap of developers, because they're still hiring, they haven't said they're not still hiring, they can have people come in to do what they need them to do, and then they can go back, like, for example, Crystal Dynamics can go back and work on the games that they need to work on when they're no longer needed. And I think this is a great example of the industry helping each other out. Whether you're a first-party studio or a multiplayer developer, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're still trying to come to the same goal and create great experiences for all gamers alike. Daryl Gallagher, or Gallagher, whatever, however you say his last name, already has an established relationship with Crystal Dynamics because he worked with them for 10 years. Yeah. So he knows what they're capable of, and he knows what they can and can't do, and so he's leveraging his networks and his relationships that he has out in our gaming industry to create the best game possible for us. So for anyone who's kind of bagging on the initiative for announcing this, I think it's nice for them to acknowledge it and actually show how healthy the gaming community, like, development side of it is, because us as fans sometimes are so focused on the console wars. It's not really a fair, I guess, perception or example of what's actually happening. We only see one side of it, and part of our side of it is just dealing with infighting because people are stupid and they like to go, my plastic box is better than your plastic box. But the developers don't have that infighting like we do. So just grow up and realize it's been happening for years. It's how the industry works. You're now kind of being reminded that it works this way. Yeah. Sorry. Elite, go.
It is funny, though, that when people use the narrative and they run with it and then get shot down with evidence to,
crap game. Massively today, but
they all do, but they always do, right? Yeah. They always get either proven wrong or, that the same thing happens on that side of the fence. And it's always funny to me because they never have a narrative that sticks. It never sticks.
Yep, every time.
And
it's always baseless and rubbish.
As a couple of guys have mentioned in chat as well, let's look at the comparison. Naughty Dog for Last of Us 2 had actually 14 studios, 2,000 staff, and they still didn't release the game with multiplayer mode. So, there's always that.
14 studios. Think about that.
And it released incomplete. Incomplete. No multiplayer.
And it got delays, didn't it?
Yeah,
didn't they have 2 or 3 delays?
14 studios. 2,000 extra staff.
Oh, come on. That's funny.
Yeah. And nobody bought it.
What's annoying, though, is the fact that people are just looking at Crystal Dynamics as their last game that released, right? Which was Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah.
Right? So they're taking that and going, why would you want them to partner or help create a game? And it's like forgetting that Crystal Dynamics is more than one game. Yeah. They have a history of games that they've done, and they've got a caliber that, if you actually look into them, they're quite a good studio themselves. Yes, they don't always create the best games, and I don't think they should have released Marvel's Avengers, because that was just not the best game. I'll be honest, it was trash in the way it launched. But look at the history. Like, Tomb Raider was amazing, like absolutely amazing what they did with that. I wasn't a big Tomb Raider fan of the previous games. They just seemed unrealistic to me. I mean, I liked the story behind them and such, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And then I played Tomb Raider, got sucked into it, and then have played all 3 games. And they were great. So just grow up, guys. Grow up.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I agree. Grow up.
Get your facts. your heads on straight, play some games, and then come back to us once we know some stuff.
Or just read some of the replies you get from Xbox gamers telling you the facts, and just take those facts in. Don't just turn it off and look away and go back to your bubble and talking to yourself, sitting in the corner dribbling. Actually take in some of the information you get from people. Crap Gamer gets it wrong so often, it's incredible. It's almost
he does it on purpose.
Do you think he's doing it on purpose, getting everything wrong on purpose?
I heard he's not allowed in Pegasus Nation, guys. Probably not.
But he does all that on purpose, man. He knows what he's saying.
Yeah.
But
who cares about crap, guys?
Yeah.
To be honest. Kind of glad he's not part of our community anymore.
We might have to get him on the channels on the podcast. Just for shit.
I don't want my IQ to go down, okay?
Yeah, just for shits and giggles.
I like my IQ where it's at.
It'd just be a podcast full of does that in all these podcasts. Anyway. So I keep coughing. I've got a bad cough that I've had for ages. Okay, so have we finished that topic? Have you finished, Red? Are we allowed to carry on, or
kind of? I got what I wanted to say out, which was just kind of like facts, and like if someone wants to go at me, they can, because I'll just slam them with facts and logic until their brain bleeds, and then they go away.
Teabag them with facts and logic. How about that?
I don't really have the equipment for teabagging their elite. I don't have the equipment. I'll just use facts. And maybe my knuckles.
Oh,
there you go.
With the violence.
Violence in video games, guys.
Yeah,
that's where it's at.
Right, okay. That's our topics done, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. Please,
Ashtrey.
Thank you, Ashtrey. You've been a fantastic member of the community.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Everyone please check out
with our technical problems, the fraud that is Elite. I can't believe you chose to come on here because of Elite.
Check out Elite. Check out Elite's channel. They've got my channel. What about me? Check out Ashtrey's channel. Please go over there now and sub to him. He's just got his YouTube channel up and going, haven't you, Ashtrey? Tell him all about it.
Your first video? Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, I've had the channel for a long time, but I've never put anything really on it. So I actually released my first video Wednesday last week, just gone. I've got 13 subs. Woohoo, go me. And it's already garnered 66 views, which I'm extremely happy about. I know that's small numbers in today's world, but I'm happy with it. And it's just a short video on the Halo flight that's happening this weekend. It was just a little bit of information for people to know when it was starting and things like that and what to expect. So here's to more videos. I'll try to drop one video a week. If I drop more than one a week, then so be it. But I still have a full-time job, and I've got 2 kids, and I've got other interests as well. Plus, for me, gaming is more important than anything else. So if I want to spend my spare time doing anything, it's gaming. So videos come second place to that. Kids should actually come first, but we're talking games here. And
come first when you teach them how to play video games. Once they know how to play video games, they then come second because you don't have to do anything with them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. I haven't told them yet, but I'm gonna give them my Series X because I'm getting the new Halo limited edition in November, so they're gonna get a bloody Series X for nothing. Lucky kids.
I can't even get older Series X. I'm still on the Series X Slim. You can't even get
them. Oh, really?
Yeah,
you can't even get them here.
Come live here. Things are easy to get here for some reason.
It's just like, it's so unfair, that is. Yeah, I don't know why they've just put so many Xbox Series X's in Australia and New Zealand. It's mad. Got nothing.
I don't know, man.
Because we support Xbox, and clearly the UK doesn't.
You're fraud because you don't even make videos either. Red Bear Panda.
I know. Don't remind me.
When was your last video?
Like a year ago, over a year ago. Yeah. Hey, I did a podcast with you and Twitter. I think, and I play games. I think that's enough for now.
Yeah, it's not enough. But please check out Ashtrey's channel. Go over there now and sub. I've subbed to him. Go and check out his channel. Give him some shares. Give him some likes. Red Dead Panda, ignore her. She don't make content.
I got a higher gamer score than you. Ignore you,
she
mate.
does. Yeah. No, please sub and share out this video as much as you can. We want to get some money. No, but thank you all for watching. And goodbye for now.
Hey guys, thanks. There you go. That went well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.